Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my LinkedIn Lives. I'm Jasmine Navarro, certified wellbeing expert, working with educational institutions and companies, helping them overcome their wellbeing challenges. And as you know, every week I interview different experts who make a difference. And today I'm super excited to be interviewing Haydan. Hi, Haydan.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
Yes, well, as my little tag here says, I kind of label myself as a team development specialist, but to give a bit of deeper insight, I just care massively about developing people and teams. And knowing that the output of that is usually a developed business and a successful business is also something that makes me super happy. So I work in a few different capacities. My background is in coaching, and that is one key part of what I do, coaching leaders, execs, all that kind of stuff. I work in kind of a fractional head of people and culture role as well, supporting smaller organizations with all the people bits, really, the stuff that, and it's what we'll talk about shortly, I'm sure, but all that stuff that isn't being done proactively, that if you don't sort out, it's going to cause problems down the line as you grow more. Then I'm also hugely passionate about well-being, things like this. So I also run kind of team development days, corporate wellness events, all of that. So it's a bit of mouthful to explain all of that, and I should probably find a more consolidated way to say it. But the backbones to it all is I just love developing people. So yeah, it's
amazing. No, thank you for that. And I know you're doing some incredible work. I love this title. We've had so many comments about this title. So you chose The Power of Prioritizing People. Tell us about that and what made you choose it for today.
I just think it's the missed piece in lots of businesses, organizations, in families, relationships, all of this stuff. The bit that gets missed out is prioritizing the people. And with most organizations that are in a bit of a pickle, you can step in and almost certainly identify that they are not hearing their people. They're not proactively trying to find out what those people need. That kind of leads to this disengagement piece. But likewise, I take it into personal terms as well. Like I said, with family and stuff, like, are we prioritizing those family members, things like that? Is it just our partner? We've forgotten about like parents, everything. So I just think it's so vast. And I think in the world we're in with social media, things like this, I think everyone is very wrapped up in their own stuff. I think in businesses, with other challenges we face, like cost of living things, new budgets, etc., I think people are so wrapped up in trying to protect money. And people is the leap of faith that once you've taken that, it may not seem worth the investment initially, but the return on it is just huge. But it's often unquantifiable. But you will down the road see those results. So I think it's the recipe for success is really looking after your people.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I actually love this title because it's like 3 P's, like powerful P's. You've got power, which is obviously a powerful word, prioritizing, so important, and people, so important. So I really love the words that you chose for this, actually. And I completely agree, because it just seems that probably it's been like this forever. We all just want the quick fix, the quick solution. And we don't have patience to like play the long game and put in the work and reap the results like in a steady pace, on a steady pace. And I think we suffer in the end with that mentality. So I absolutely love everything that you've said. So where do we start with this? Like, how do we prioritize people? What do we do to prioritize people? I mean, it's such a huge topic, isn't it?
Well, I think for me, this has all come from this kind of coaching place that I trained and got accredited as a life coach initially before I stepped into some corporate work. And it has gone within a couple of years from life coaching people one-to-one to being a head of people and culture in an organization. It's been
Wow.
a huge leap. But the thing that has been present throughout is it's the listening piece. It's like hearing people. In all the work I've done, it's never been about assuming I know best, assuming I know the answers, thinking I have to solve the problems. It's always been about empowering people and knowing that those people have so much potential. And my job's always been to kind of eke it out of them. I think a lot of organizations don't recognize that in their people. So managers are just making decisions. They're not including people. People are scared to speak up. People want clarity, won't ask for it. So then they're kind of bumbling around. And it takes from a leadership level, from kind of that top, like leadership at all levels, basically, for those people to really be empowering everyone else, hearing them, hearing feedback, hearing what their thoughts are, getting them to be creative, offering them, like delegating tasks, but in a way that it's supportive to them and gives them an opportunity to grow and shine, and giving them the feedback. And it's so often the case that targets or objectives are set at the top and it is just thrown down,
Yeah.
and everyone's just expected to go and do it. And the support piece is just massively missing in my eyes. And once you've really heard what your employees want and need and their thoughts, it's just going to drive engagement. Like, I'm not going to list off all the Gallup kind of numbers, but engagement is so low. And we're in these talent wars. Like, that whole landscape is so tough. And just for taking a bit more time to be people centric and have that people first mindset, companies will save themselves so much money and time and energy.
Yeah. Well, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's kind of common sense when you think about it, isn't it? If you look after your staff, they'll look after you. If you trust your staff, it's just unbelievable, really, when you think this day and age, what's happening. Everybody. I mean, I speak to so many people that are burnt out. They don't want to talk to their boss. They would rather just take a day off sick. So that's what happens, isn't it? It's just right. We have a question on Instagram.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, from Lulu. Hi, Lulu. She says, can you share, well, you've kind of already mentioned this, but can you share your perspective on what it means to truly prioritize people in a professional or organized setting?
Yeah, I go back to what I said. I think it's just stop assuming you know the answers. Like, get in and speak to your people. There's such a gap often between leadership. I say a gap, it's like a cavern between leadership and kind of the rest of the business. And it's at its worst when that top level are all assuming and thinking one thing, but the reality on the ground is very different.
Yes.
And no one has thought to go and understand that perspective. But the prioritizing piece there is then about doing something with it. It's kind of building that bridge over the big crevice, hearing what those people want, and then, like, you can performance manage people, but until you've understood why people aren't performing, maybe it is that the workload is way too much, or maybe they need support with something, or maybe you do need to hire someone else. But if you're not willing to listen to that, and you're just going to keep going off of this perspective of they should be doing more, they're probably not the right person, you've got whole teams you could speak to and understand the problem, solve it. People will be really pleased you've listened. They'll feel included. They will become more engaged. They will work better.
Yeah.
But while it's this kind of, this is what I need you to do it, without any of the, here's where we're aiming. What do you need from me? Right? Here's what I need from you. Is there anything else like that we need to talk about? Cool. Perfect. And then checking in regularly. Like, I'm about to, one of the organizations I work with, we're about to change kind of how we push for performance and things like that, but it is going to be coaching led, like more one-to-ones, more touch points, more things for teams together, getting individual teams together, the whole team together, complete transparency, opportunities for people to talk. We will set really clear objectives and stuff, but it will only work because we'll do the people bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think this is not happening? Because it just seems such common sense. I know we mentioned about the quick fix, but why is this not happening when it just seems so obvious?
I think there's a lot of pressure on businesses at the moment would be one piece, particularly financially. So they just need performance, which I get. I think there's a bit of kind of the Peter principle playing out where people just get promoted and promoted and promoted due to skill until their own demise, where you've gone from being, I don't know, best sales advisor in a team to being promoted to a supervisor to this. Next thing you're leading a sales team and you've got no clue how to lead people because you were promoted on skill, when actually you really should just be your own thing. There should be this new role where you're like an individual seller, where you're so skilled at it that we need to give that person opportunity to grow and develop and get the pay rises and this. But the right thing isn't to push them up the hierarchy to become a leader. Like, get a people leader in, give them like bonuses in a different way. We're very linear with our structures. And I know this from in an old place I worked. I was a sales advisor, became an assistant manager, was doing the manager's role while they were on maternity. And I saw a territory trainer role become available. And I thought, this is great. My job as an assistant manager was developing my team, and I loved it. This territory trainer role was people facing, it was developing people. I was like, this is me. And when I asked someone one of the relevant people about, I think it's what I want to go for, the answer was, you should probably get promoted to a store manager for a couple of years and then do it. And my question was, well, why? Because the only experience I'm going to get from stepping up that I don't already have is more like back office admin stuff, which does not align to any competencies of the role I'm expressing interest in. But it was so just 2D and like, no, unless you're a store manager, you're probably not going to get that. And I'm being like, well, this is ridiculous. So it's that stuff, like, yeah, we've got some work to do to be a bit more creative in the workplace around how we are, like, yeah.
And doing things that they've always done. It's like just a habit, autopilot. We've always done it this way. So we're going to continue doing it this way. It's like you said, we don't want to stop and actually think a little bit, which might take a bit more time, but actually it will probably save time.
Yeah. The world has changed completely. Like, 20 years ago, your title, certified wellbeing expert, would not have really been a thing. You would have been one of a very small amount, and it would have been so niche.
Yes.
And not common in the workplace. And we've got all this stuff now. Like, the whole landscape, like I said, has completely changed, but we're still trying to do things in the same way. And it is the businesses and organizations that have clocked on. Like, the main company I work with is a charity. It's not a huge amount of staff. They have a great culture. They're doing amazing stuff. There's no real problems. But what they've anticipated is that they want to grow. And if they don't make sure everything is solid now, it's going to be really tough as they get more and more people. So my role as this kind of fractional head of people and culture, which, bearing in mind, there's non-profits who are willing to pay money for this kind of thing, yet there's businesses that aren't, who are making a lot of profit. My role becomes reacting to current people problems to make sure everything's good, and anticipating the future ones that come with growth, that come with having to restructure, that come with maybe certain people not working out. It's all that stuff.
Yes.
Like, HR is great. And I know the HR name doesn't always have the best connotations with it, but it is absolutely needed. It's fantastic. I have so much respect. For me, I kind of see there's often two sides. There's the reactive and the proactive. The reactive being like, this has happened, we now need to do this. And where I thrive is less about the employment law stuff, which I know I need to know, but more about the proactive. How can we keep developing the business, these people, the teams? Like, what can we be doing that's new, that's different, that's more, that's aligned with where the world's at? All of these things.
And how do you decide all of that? Because that's actually quite a big responsibility, isn't it?
Well, it's a people thing again. Like, I don't just lock myself in a room and work it out myself. I
No.
surround myself with different experts. I've got an amazing mentor. I typically will only work with people that I like as well.
Oh, I
So
love that. Really? Really?
yes,
That's actually really interesting.
so the CEO of the charity I predominantly work for, I have a great relationship with. So it doesn't need to be a case of me just sitting in a room and working it out myself.
Yeah.
We'll have conversations, we'll collaborate. I sit on the leadership team, so I get to have conversations with them. I research, I see what's going on in the world. And do you know what? Because I'm early-ish on in this journey, I
Yes.
I have to really think about it. I'm not
Yeah.
I remember a while ago I spoke to someone who had a potential opportunity for me, and then they said, I'm really sorry, I don't think it's going to come through because the companies we work with in like the biotech sector or whatever, they want coaches, whoever, who have already worked in that sector because they understand it. And I said, with all due respect, all that tells me is if they've already worked in there, they're more at risk to going, I see a problem, I fixed that before, I know what we need to do.
Yeah.
That doesn't.
Exactly.
So I have the privilege of having to be creative because I don't know what works. I know I've
I
got the
love that.
skill, and I've had enough proof that I can do this stuff. But it means I don't come at it going, I've seen this problem 5 times before. Here's the cookie cutter solution. I have to go, right, here's a new problem. How could we look at this? What do people think about this? Okay, let me develop this. And it all becomes creative. And I think leadership as well is a creative role. I think this is what people are a bit scared of. Like, there is no rule book for like what you do, for what I do, how you lead people. Like, your stamp can be put on it, and it should be.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. I love that you're using the word creative a lot because I think that's really key. But I just want to go back again that you said you only work with people that you like.
Mm.
But what happens? Obviously, sometimes it's inevitable. You come across somebody who you don't like. Like, how would you deal with that? Because I don't think you would just say, right, I'm leaving. Like, how would you deal with that situation?
Well, obviously, a lot of work is kind of created. Like, when you're self-employed, it's very, I mean, some
Oh, I
people
see.
get
Yes.
people picking the phone up, but I won't push just for business's sake.
Okay.
I
Okay.
have in my eye line the people that I really like, the people I respect, the companies I'd love to support.
Yes.
There's a list
Yes.
of them, and I don't push hard. Like, a lot of
Yeah.
it is like timing. A lot of it is about kind of what, like I said, when it's right for them. A lot of it is to when I've got certain levels of experience. But if I started working with someone and I wasn't getting on, I would just say, like, I think there's probably someone better, and I'd happily refer and recommend people. But
I love
with
that.
what I do, I need buy-in, I need support. My creativity will be stifled if I'm being too boxed in by someone. So I need
Yes.
someone to just give me this, like, we want you to sit on the leadership team. We want to hear your input. We want you to go and create this stuff. We're gonna at least be open to trying it. We're gonna give you feedback, and that's how the relationship will work. If I've got someone who is very dictatorial and is just like, I need you to do this, need you to do this, I just won't enjoy it. It won't be creative. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
that is
You're
not.
right. You're right. It's not going to bring out the best in you, your strengths.
Yeah. So I will find
Mm.
people that I like, and I will build relationships over time. And when the time is right, I will work with them if that's available. And I'll find the next one. And that's kind of how the cycle's gone.
I love that. And I think, yeah, that's one of the pros of working for yourself. Right. We've got another question from Annabelle. Hi, Annabelle. How are you doing? She says, can you share a story or example where prioritizing people led to a transformative outcome for a team or organization? Quite hard.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
there's one and I'm anticipating it right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
I had a team day with I was in effect commissioned to do a group of workshops for every different team in an organization. And the last team I got to, was probably the more challenging one, and probably the most dissatisfied group as well.
Oh, really?
I was able to, through this 3-4 hour workshop, deliver what I needed to, but also hear them. So although it wasn't the most effective workshop I've ever done, being that external person meant that I was able to leave and hear them say to me, like, actually, we just are glad that we felt heard. What I was able to do with that is feed that back anonymously to a point. When I say anonymously, the person's going to get all the context, just probably without all the names.
Yes.
Feed that back to the CEO, who, what changes is it becomes less about, oh, this team's moaning, and more, I've managed to hear, digest what they're saying. No, some of it might be a bit of a push. Some of it might be really raw and true. I'm able to gift that back. And what will happen next is the CEO will now be able to say, we've heard where you're at. We'd love to sit down and talk to you. And it's now this relationship where, and I know that's happening soon. So I don't know the end result yet, but
yeah, you have to tell us.
yes, I've no doubt. But the thing is, that team isn't going to get everything they want, because personally, I felt like they were asking for almost too much. However, they will be able to start to rebuild that relationship where they don't feel heard, and leadership may not be giving them all that they're after, but there will be change. And some people it won't be great for, and they might just go, don't want to do this anymore. And I think the reason I'm saying that is we always push for like minimizing attrition in businesses, but actually I'm a huge fan of if they're not the right people, it's not an issue going. I'm not there to step into a business and go, you're not the right one, you're not the right one, off you go. But if someone can decide on a really informed opinion that this isn't for them, and it's not due to the organization doing anything wrong, then fine. Like, it's a pain short term, but there's someone waiting who's going to be the right person for it, more excited, more engaged, more passionate, whatever. So yeah, coming off tangent a bit, but
no, it's interesting.
Yeah, by me facilitating this workshop and being able to hear them as an external, feed it back in a very different way that they're probably not able to communicate because they're frustrated.
Yeah.
Facilitate a meeting in which that team can be heard, things we put in place, and things will get better. So brilliant. I just love communication. I think people need to communicate more. People need to learn how to communicate better. It's underpins all
everything. Yeah, it's the foundation to absolutely everything.
Relationships, romantic relationships, work, all of it. Like getting your way in a shop. Like, I was refused a parcel the other day because there was an address issue, but because I know how to communicate, the lady was like, do you know what? Don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. It's fine. Because I know how to talk to a person, not get annoyed and give her an earful. I'm able to go, I hear you. Like, I get it. Can we have a look at this? It's just
brilliant. No, exactly. Respect as well, like you mentioned. It sounds like respect and kindness as well. Another question from Paul. Hi, Paul. What are some common mistakes leaders make when trying to prioritize people?
Being fake, like not actually it. I think
we all know when someone's being fake.
Many leaders will sit and watch all the Simon Sinek videos and then do this very like inauthentic version of that.
Really?
It's not working. People see through it, right? Like, I think that's one thing, is like inauthenticity. When you're leading, you can't, and I see it again, I've seen this, you can't be the person who is telling your team, like, sign off at 5, like, we don't need you working anymore, like, we want you to have good work-life balance, but then they see you're still on at 7, because the words don't mean anything. They will feel guilty, and they'll be like, oh, they're saying not to do it, but they're doing it, so maybe it's a test. So so
mixed, conflicted message.
I think inauthenticity is probably the biggest one for me. I think that's what a lot of leaders get wrong. I think I think I've coined this principle, but I've thought this many a time, and then like a year later read it in a book and realized I didn't make this up. But my beliefs on what a leadership role should look like is that your time should be split into thirds. And I believe that people should be hired into roles this way. And the way your time is split is that a third of your time is kind of business as usual. You're doing your tasks, the to-do list, the tick boxy stuff. That should be 1/3. The other third should be completely about your team. So a third of your week invested into line managing your team, developing your team, supporting your team, whatever is needed. And the other third should be a strategic piece that you should be taking time to think ahead, to be strategic, to review what's working, even if that feels like you're not necessarily working. Like most people are really creative thinkers and their strategy brain will come alive being out on a walk. So even if that meant like every day you take an hour or two out on a walk, as long as there's tangible things that you're actually solving problems in your head, I think for a leader, they're meant to be giving direction and focus, which if you're doing everything reactively and just ticking a tick box off, you're never doing that. Your team don't have anyone to follow. If you're not investing time in them, they're not going to trust you. They're probably not getting the support they need, which again leads to disengagement. But then also you do have your own tasks to do. So I'm aware of that. But I think what happens is people are hired into leadership roles, their full capacity, what they're given is like business as usual work for 100% of their capacity. Then they're having to squeeze in one-to-ones, which they resent. You've got no time to be proactive, future focused and think about strategy. And we wonder why the team's not growing. Well, sorry, why the business isn't growing that part of it and why the team's unhappy. Where it's like you're not leading, you're just an employee doing work.
You're surviving. You're just keeping everything as it is. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, Haydan, you've said some really interesting points today, which I completely agree with. No, thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything else? So before we go, so what would be, because obviously it can be quite overwhelming. I mean, it was maybe, with a leader who just really doesn't know where to start. Because obviously we can't change everything in one day. So what would be the first step, would you think, for an organization to start or implement just one tiny thing? Because, small things, I really do believe taking small action consistently is the way forward.
Is this in terms of like kind of creating success in the organization for everyone? Is this what you mean?
Yeah, and prioritizing people. Yeah.
For me, one of the singular most important things to creating business success, but also prioritizing people, is creating clarity. I see it too many times where people aren't clear on expectations, and how it leaves you is if I'm in a state where I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm not sure, and I think I'm doing a good job, but I'm not certain, then there's no way I'm going to be fully effective, fully motivated, any of that stuff. And what's often needed is person at the top needs to be really clear on what it is they're doing so that they can ensure the people below them are clear on what they need to be doing. And there needs to be enough communication to know they're doing what they're doing and to praise them for doing well. If anyone sat there thinking, I'm not completely sure what I'm supposed to be doing, or they're not sure they're doing well, this is where we get into problems, because people then have self-doubt. They can't make decisions, all this stuff. So I think the smallest thing is almost do a little clarity audit. Go back through the organization and work out, does everyone actually know what they're doing?
That's brilliant.
And are we praising people for doing the good stuff? Because if they're not getting it right, that's where we need to be supporting. If we're not clear, we don't know where the support's needed either. So for me, getting clear would be the biggest thing. But to tag onto it, I would also just say, don't underestimate coaching. Like I say that as a coach, but I work with so many leaders and they become so competent as leaders by the end of our time together that it becomes like a breeze for them. Like they get it. And it's not about giving people a leadership handbook, but it's allowing people to find their own version of leadership, that creative one I spoke about. So ask your employers if that's an option. Like if you're a leader and you're struggling, ask if coaching is viable, available. And if not, there's plenty of podcasts, YouTube, books. Like that's better than nothing as well.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Haydan. Can you just leave us with one word?
One word. I
know.
Consistency.
Consistency. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Haydan. How can people find you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place. Haydan Firth on LinkedIn. Everything is there. Email, all of that. So, and yeah, that's the best place to see me. So please do come and say hi. Let me know what you thought.
It's been an absolute pleasure. If you have anything you want to add to the comments on the post about what you've mentioned today, please feel free to. And yes, if anyone has any questions about coaching, leadership, prioritizing people, please contact Haydan, and he will gladly talk to you. And thank you so much, Haydan. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody else. And I will see you next week.
Cheers.